Your peers are awesome for being willing to come up here. This is important because this is relatable. We all get a chance to relate to each other. And just so you all know, please know that we have a break at 10:40 after this. So please give me 50 minutes of your attention. So we talk about retaining what you obtain. I'm going to start with Mike Thomas. And Mike, when I thought about you, one of the things that I considered was you're a non-producing branch manager. You may do a loan, one loan in here or there, but primarily you have our flagship office, the spare office, which was actually, just so you guys know, this was Christy Rozo's, Paul's wife. This was her original branch. Frank Castano's our regional manager. Where's Frank? Raise your hand, Frank. Frank? Oh, okay. I was going to say, I was about to get mad at Frank. Frank took over. And then ultimately, Mike took over and has never looked back. How much in volume did you do last month?
55 million.
55 million. Give him a round of applause. When he took over the branch is doing roughly $7 to $8 million, right in there?
Yep, like 4 to 5, 6 some months, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not 7, 4 to 5. Anyway, so he does deserve a ton of credit. And that group does not, I'm saying that none of them buy leads, but they are primarily a purchase money operation. True or not true?
90% purchase. In most markets last year, we were around 60% purchase.
Okay, very good. So as a manager, retaining what you obtain, there are producing and non-producing managers in this room that have loan officers like you that report to them. So tell me, I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you, what are a few things, top of mind, what are a few things that come to your head where you go, these are the things that I do well to make sure that my loan officers are not taken away from me by the competition? What is it that you personally do well that keeps your loan officers sticking around?
Well, it's funny that you asked me that, because I kind of panicked and thought you weren't going to ask me that. So I sent text to 7 of my top loan officers, and I'm like, hey, what do you guys do to retain and obtain your customers? And they sent me back these detailed responses, so I'm prepared to comment on that a little bit. But I would say that the primary thing that I do to retain my loan officers is find out what makes them tick, and then do what I can to make them happy. I have 41 loan officers, so there's a lot of different loan officers, and from the top, the number 1, number 2 loan officer in the company, down to loan officers that are pretty good loan officers, but they're only closing 3 or 4 loans a month. So there's a wide disparity in the loan officers, and they have different priorities, different objectives to this business, and they approach the business in different ways. And I just try to get to know them, find out what's important to them, and then I try to work to their needs. And it's a lot different working to Sam Zumwalt's needs, or somebody who's a top producer.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because let's follow up with that. So Sam Zumwalt is one of your originators. She's a pro. Is she always super easy to deal with?
No. And I love her. That's another thing, the people on my team is people love sports, they collect baseball cards. I collect loan officer cards. Loan officers are the people that are like the coolest people to me. And I admire them for what they do. And I did what they do for so many years that, I understand it intimately. And Sam can be difficult at times, but when she's difficult, when she's the most difficult is when I'm not understanding her. That's what I've learned, is that when she's the most difficult, it's when she's telling me something, she's trying to make me understand it, but I don't understand it. And I have to figure out how to understand it so I can help. And I think that's really important. If you want to retain people, you need to understand what their problems and their issues are so you can address them.
You seem to do life balance pretty well. I know you work hard. Give me, as a person listening to you or listening to this group, tell me about your day. What time does your day typically start?
I usually get in the office between 6:30 and 7. I like starting early because it gives you an opportunity to prepare for your day. I work hard all day. It seems like between 10 and 4 is probably the heaviest time of the day. Usually I go home from work at around 5, go into my office, get my computer going, and the emails keep coming to about 6 or 7, and then, I'm hanging out with my wife.
So roughly a 12-hour workday on a regular basis.
Yep.
Okay. And that's important for your peers to know because, sometimes we feel alone. I was talking about somebody yesterday who had a hell of a month, had a hell of a quarter, but was just feeling overwhelmed. And it's important that you recognize that you're not alone. If you're working those long hours, it's just what you do to be able to close $55 million in a month. So Paul, and we'll come back to you, Mike, Paul Pissarro. Paul, you have a different model. It's you. You're much like Justice Roberts in that way. And what I wanted you to be able to talk to the audience about is, you've built a career on making sure that the clients that you've touched in the past, much like Karen here, the clients that you've touched in the past don't go to another lender. They stay with you. What are some of the practices that you put into place to make sure that your clients come back and stay with you?
I'd say generically, most of what I focus on is that relationship and then serving the needs. So whether it's an ongoing relationship with an agent I've had for years or other relationships, it's always making sure that I understand what they're trying to accomplish. If it's a realtor relationship, I'm always making sure I understand that, we want to get them paid, that we're taking care of their paycheck, that we value their clients, that they refer to us. And then, working the phones, understanding how much I do need to drip on them and converting, especially now to, social media, to getting blast, whether it's stuff that I'm doing videos, mail drops, voicemail drops, and keeping on top of it. And then always following the same process, setting the right expectation, and then achieving what we want to achieve. And the end result is, your social survey, how that looks, and making sure that people understand the value of that, and just really having the integrity and serving their needs.
And it's been asked, so I'll ask it before they get a chance to. Do you have a system of follow-up? Do you have what system do you use to make sure that you stay on task? So that you know who to call?
I have a spreadsheet, so it's broken into 10, 10, and 10. And really, I try to make sure I'm on top of the 10 new referrals that I get. I stay on them all week long. I always follow up with the agents with everything actively so that our systems do a really good job of keeping updated. And some of them love the ping, some of them love the normal stuff that goes through the process, but at every single milestone, it'll either be a phone call or a text to whether it's the realtor or whether it's the client to make sure they know where we're at and we've reached those objectives. Because once I've structured the loan, I've finished the setup, I've transferred the right expectations of what the file is going to look like to my LOA and my processor, until we're ready to lock, if we're not locking immediately, I'm really not that involved because I don't gather data, I don't touch any of that. The LOAs, sales assistants, and processors do all that part of it until we're ready to lock and ready to close. So I make sure I keep up on the milestones so they're getting a little touch, but I don't get into anything that's, unless it's a problem we have, and otherwise I stay out of it. So I'm always, doing pipe review, doing my contact review, and having broken up in about 3 sets of 10 calls per day.
And I'm going to lead here for a second. And I mean this as a term of endearment because I consider myself, as Paul said yesterday, he's old school, I'm old school. Do you consider yourself kind of an old school loan officer?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So
this is my third career, hopefully my final career.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, I never wanted to be a salesman. When I got into lending, it really wasn't about sales. It was about relationships. And so old school really is it, but I've always been kind of a techno guy. So I like the all of the innovations that have gone on, especially the last 10 years.
You are very technical. You drive me crazy sometimes, but in a good way. Where's Doug Bateman? Same thing. Doug Bateman, by the way, got to give a round of applause for Doug Bateman. Second highest producer, first month at the company. Doug Bateman drives me batshit crazy. but in a good way, because he's trying to make sure that all of us are better. And there's a couple things that are in the works because of Doug Bateman that's going to benefit each and every one of you in this room. So that's just a teaser. Give me 30 days and I'll have it delivered. Karen, because I'm going to drive a point home here in a second. So Karen, I'm going to set you up because like Paul, like Mike, and like many of us, you're a relationship person. But it's nothing really fancy that you're doing per se. There's nothing super high tech that you're doing.
I hate technology.
Okay.
I literally hate it.
So make sure your microphone's up so they can hear you. But you are just, one of my expressions I probably overuse is world endeavors. You're just somebody who just loves to talk to your friends. They're not even your clients. They're your friends, your realtor partners. You have just a ton of energy. Talk about that, because that is, what's important for everybody to hear is that there's no one set way to do business. We're all at PRMG, but each and every one of us can do business a slightly different way. There are some common denominators that can improve, even at your level, improve our business. But there's some things you guys are doing well that's allowing you to make a very good living. So talk to me about how you've been able to retain the clients that you have. What are some of the things that you do? Think about that. From your perspective, give me one or two things, three things, whatever, that you go, you know what? I do this pretty damn well to keep clients.
I don't operate in fear. When people call me, I'm just really sincere, and I don't know how or why. It just is a gift. And Paul talked a lot about transparency, and I think that that's a word that really wasn't even in my vocabulary. But when people call me, my agents, my clients, I don't look at them as a dollar sign, because the money will come, and the money comes fast, and the money keeps coming. When your people feel like people, and I tell people, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I tell them, look, I'm not gonna be your lender, I'm your solutionist. Give me your issues, tell me what your goal is, and let's get it done. And I think that breaks through barriers, and they don't leave. They don't leave. Sometimes some of them, it resonates with them. And so they're like, okay, how do I fire my previous lender? My agent just had me call you. Am I allowed to get rid of them? I said, absolutely. It happens to all of us. There's no fee. You're not going to get in trouble. But I set the expectations too.
You do. And I know last year when, the market is what it was, and we had longer turn times there, I was dealing with that on a regular basis. And one of the things you said that resonated with me was you said, Chris, I'm like a fine restaurant where people wait for weeks or months to get into.
Oh yeah, I told them that. I'm like, look, I'm gonna get you the best rate. We are gonna talk all the time, because I'm really old school. I'm kind of embarrassed to even say it, but there's probably like $1 million worth of notepads in the bottom of my closet from like all the years that I've been doing business. I'm getting them in a CRM, I am. Mark, my better half, is on me about that. But I stay in contact with people. So I say, look, you can go to Chase, you can go wherever you want, but just be prepared. You're not going to know what's going on. So with me, they know what's going on all the time. I talk to my people a lot. They text me, we call. And I said, you're in New York, and you've waited all year to go see this play. You've waited to get into the finest restaurant out there. Grab a bottle of wine, sit down with your friends, enjoy your wine, because your time's gonna come. And then when it comes, you're gonna be as happy as all get out. You got the meal, you got the show. That's what we're gonna do for you. And not one of them left, not one of them.
When you told me that story, it had a great impact on me, because that is so true. Charge what you're worth, but earn what you charge. And you earn what you charge, and you don't make any apologies for it. And I think that's extremely powerful. And that confidence, that authority that she provides to her clientele, obviously it resonates, right? Top producer, crushing it, making lots of money, serving lots of folks. That authority and the confidence in her abilities is uber critical. Go ahead and pass the mic to Mike. There you go. That is the mic to Mike. So, Mike, I'm going to come back to you because, again, there are people that have loan officers reporting to them. How do you teach, or how do you get your loan officers to practice what you preach? Give me some tips on what you do to follow up with them to make sure that they are staying consistent and retaining their clientele. And then again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for some tidbits, some truths.
We have a monthly sales meeting, and in the monthly sales meeting, we try to connect all of our loan officers together, the newer ones, the experienced ones, the ones who, may need a little bit more coaching, and try to get them all together. I'm an example for everybody, but we have really great loan officers that are also an example. And I think that when you have multiple examples of the right way to do things, it's a lot more powerful than just having one person as an example. So, I think that's really powerful. And, we've kind of moved our sales meetings to Zoom because of COVID and kind of technology and just the way things have transitioned. We have more loan officers that are working remotely. So I was out to dinner the other night with a couple of my loan officers and my wife, and one of the loan officers was saying, "Who are all these new loan officers you hired?" And I'm like, I hired like 25 people since COVID. And she's like, "We need to have a meeting to get together and get to know each other." So the third Thursday in September, I rented a restaurant, a patio on a restaurant, and we're gonna have a party with an open bar for a while and a taco bar, and bring everybody in so that the new people can interact with the experienced people, with the idea being that we have a culture, and I want everybody to be part of the same culture. And I want everybody to be walking a similar walk. I don't want everybody to be clones or exactly the same as each other, but I want everybody to be kind of operating under the same principles.
I love that. That is awesome. One of the things that both Paul and Karen said, and to a degree that I'm going to come back to Mike on that point, but one of the things that I heard from Karen and from Paul is that they're old school. Much of what you guys are doing is just relationship building. You're just making calls. But what I didn't hear you say, and that doesn't mean it's not important, what I didn't hear you say is talk about the technical aspect. In fact, you don't like tech. But I would respectfully submit to them and to you, can you imagine how much more, with their talent, how much more they could achieve if they did embrace just your own company's CRM, Total Expert? You don't have to have the other ones that Scott and Julian and Justice mentioned, but even Total Expert. Total Expert is fully integrated with your LOS system, has a lot of automation. All of your vendors are tied to it. But what I love about Total Expert, and as you've heard me say over and over again, the best CRM is the one that you use. But why not use one, obviously, that costs $98 a month, that's fully integrated, ready to go? It's brainless. But what's critical is there are people that are in their past that right now could benefit from their services. And as good as they are, they may not know about them because of all the pads sitting in her room and what Paul keeps in his head or on his spreadsheet. That's not necessarily popping up on the Total Expert daily reminder of, hey, these clients need this activity right here, right now. Do you think that could help you potentially?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I do some of that now. So
You are?
Yeah, so right now, working with Ben Anderson, I have 1,000 names and numbers, about half of which are all already in Total Expert, and then about the other half are in my Google contacts. I merged them all together and said, boom, do a video blast. They're popping out 100 a week. So we're doing video drops to 100 emails. of old clients. Using Total Expert every week, we send out a social media blast and we send out an email blast. So we're hitting that type of things. But the interesting part is that when I started really dicing things up, going back and digging into 20 years of contacts in my phone, exporting them and merging them together, now I have a database of 1,000. I haven't taken them all to Total Expert yet, but we're blasting out, video blast and audio blast to voicemails every week. So we're doing that constantly, and we're still following up with them. And it's amazing because you get all these calls out of nowhere, and you just kind of go, "Hey, you must have got my message, thanks." And it's just a voicemail blast. So we're doing some of it. We're moving there.
I love that. I love that. Go ahead, Karen.
Well, just because I hate technology, I absolutely know the value of it. My husband is a tech geek, and so we're a really, really good mix. So he's been nagging me for quite some time to do videos. And so we also just imported, I think there's a good few thousand that we just have imported. We've got them into Total Expert. We're working it, and I do see the benefit. And my phone is my source, and I know I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. If you went through my phone is my secretary, my phone is my appointment keeper, my phone is everything, and my texts alert me. So when I say I hate technology, like I just don't want to do the data entry, I don't want to deal with it, but it's being done, and I set out, just goofing around one Sunday night, I went through everybody from 2 months before. They hadn't bought yet. So I do this on a regular basis, even though I say, hey, I hate technology. How's your shopping? What's going on? Did you give up? What are we doing? Rates are great. When are you gonna buy? Out of 20 people that I send texts out, like Sunday evening, and I know everybody in here on Sunday, you're probably already starting about Monday, what's going on, what do you need to do? And that's where I kick back, do whatever, and I send the text. And by that next day, 10 out of 20 of them will absolutely go, hey, how's it going? Yeah, no, I left that agent. Will you do a loan in San Francisco? We're moving. I'm like, I'm there. And I tell everybody, I can do a loan anywhere you want. You're stuck with me. And it works. I close loans. I mean, it's like, Chris, can we do this? Chris, can we do that? Because what happens is that little touch of technology that I use, which is text message, is huge. So I absolutely believe in the value of the CRM, and I'm letting Mark make me do videos and all that stuff.
Good girl. So you're going to be introduced to Bomb Bomb, right?
I think so.
I think so. Okay, good. Yeah, no, well, technology is our friend. But what's important that I want everybody to see is, there's people in this room that have not embraced technology, that you also have that fear. There are people that can bring up on stage who you would say, wow, that's really impressive, but you would not be able to relate to them as well as I think you can relate to Karen and Paul and Mike, because they're doing extremely well, but just like you, they're on the cusp of greatness. They're on the cusp of breaking through and becoming even better at what they do and achieving even greater heights. They know it's possible, and they know they're capable. And as I said when I opened up today's session, I would say that you have a duty. So long as you three are going to be in this business, you can't keep yourself a secret. If you did 55 million, do you honestly believe you can't do 110?
I know I can do 110.
Give them a round of applause. That's awesome. Great answer. How are you going to get there? What are some of the action steps as a leader and somebody that I and everybody else is looking up to? What are some of the action steps you're going to take? Because you speak the truth. So how are you going to take the first step to achieve that $110 million a month goal?
Well, I think that the thing that got us to where we are now is the implementation of assistance. And we heard that with our last panel, that, when you start using people to assist you with what you do, you release yourself to be free to get more business. And that's worked with our loan officers, where when I started, we had one loan officer with an assistant, and now we have like 8 or 9 loan officers with assistants. I think that the second round is this group of 20 or so newbies that we've hired. getting them successful in the mortgage business. And you know, I've also taken a couple of people from other branches, a guy from Wells Fargo and a guy from another branch in PRMG that, you know, I've been working with that, you know, I feel like there's a lot of potential there. But our people are using the CRM. They are using Total Expert. I think I've got one that's on whiteboard in addition to Total Expert, and it's to capture those people at the pre-qual stage, you know, in the early stages of the business. But, you know, I think Total Expert's great. And I've got designated Total Expert experts in my office that I use to help me train other people on Total Expert. So, you know, I think we got it going on.
So assistance, obviously, which, you know, play to your strengths, hire your weaknesses. Your greatest asset, obviously, and the greatest time spent is the time that you're selling, not processing. As Scott Thompson said so well, what the hell are you thinking? Stop it. Stop the madness. You asked your loan officers some questions, or a question, before you came up on stage. What was that question again?
I asked them what they do to retain what they obtain.
Okay, and what was some of the answers? Do you have it written down anywhere, or you have it memorized?
I have it in a little book, but since I'm holding the mic, I'll just go by my memory.
Okay.
Because really there was two predominant answers that came from almost everybody. And then, of course, no surprise, Sam gave me a more intricate answer that I think you'll find interesting as well. What everybody else responded to me that was kind of common is, number one, when you have an opportunity to do a loan for somebody, that you have to really do a great job on that loan. You have to do a really great job. That's the minimum standard. You have to be really, really excellent. You have to be really excellent at communication. And the people that I texted and asked this question were people who get their surveys back. And all their surveys are 5-star surveys, and they're really good, and they get a real high survey return rate. And the way I look at surveys and social survey, when people take the time to write a paragraph about their experience with our loan officer, I mean, who does that? Do you guys do that when you go, you know, to a restaurant and have dinner? Do you just go out and, oh, I want to write a paragraph about this restaurant? No, we don't. We only do it if we really feel it in here. And so we have a ton of people that they feel it in here, and they're writing this paragraph about our loan officers, about how great they are. So I think that's the kind of experience that you're looking for, is an experience that's so powerful that when they close, they will not only fill out the survey, but they'll take the time to write a paragraph about you. And I asked these loaners, I said, are you asking your people, you know, telling, hey, it would mean a lot to me if you'd write a paragraph about your experience? They're like, no, I don't even tell them about the survey. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. The second thing that they brought up is after the loan closes, and this is where Total Expert kicks in and helps, is you stay in touch with them. But they go beyond the Total Expert kind of touch, and some of them said in increments of 3 months, some of them said increments of 6 months. But they actually reach out and contact them by text or phone call or email and say, hey, what's going on? And all of them said the same thing, that they don't contact them to say, hey, rates are really low right now, you should look at a refi. They just call in to check in with them and see how they're doing. And I thought, wow, that's really powerful. And one of them mentioned, you know, in going through that process of checking in with them, I don't ask for referrals, but I frequently get referrals of family and friends when I'm going through that check-in process. So I thought that was really cool. The interesting thing about Samantha Zumwalt is when I asked her this same question, she came back to me and she said, are you asking me about borrowers or about realtors? And I thought, oh, okay. And she said, you know, my focus is on both of them, but my primary focus is on the realtors. And I will pull up my notebook to share with you a couple of the things that she had to say about the realtors. Number one is she said, always be looking for more and new contacts. Now keep in mind, this is a woman who has been in the mortgage business for a little bit over 20 years. And she's closing 25 to 30 loans a month. And she has a lot of contacts, okay? But she's always looking for new and more contacts.
Can I just interrupt and also,
Yeah.
in case you weren't going to say this, Sam is also a wife, a mother, and an active parent in her kids' school and school work and everything else. I mean, she is...
Yeah, she's actually a good wife and a good mother. She really is. And I mean, she's not my wife, but I can see, I spend enough time with her to know she's a really good wife and a really good mom.
Yes, she is.
Number 2, do events with and for your referral partners. Support them in their events. Track closings so you know what relationships are thriving and which ones are not. Now think about that for a minute too. So if she, because she'll tell me, she said, I noticed this. I'm like, how's this person doing? She's like, well, I noticed that their business dropped off. And I'm like, do you know why? And she's like, yeah, and I'm trying to find out. But she's really watching her referral sources to see how active they are and how they're performing. She said, be very attentive to your agents and referral partners. Now, Karen was talking about this text. And like Sam's the crazy texter, she's like texting everybody all the time, updating everybody all the time. She's just keeping everybody informed and in the loop of what's going on. Keep them engaged with marketing and training.
Say that part again.
Keep your realtors engaged with marketing and training. So Sam does a lot of partnership stuff with her agents. She does a lot of training for offices, for agents, and she does a lot of marketing. She does a lot of co-buying on marketing and leads and things like that. And then the last thing that she said is don't be too good to do anything. And then, just so my mind wouldn't wander to the wrong place, she put in parentheses, sit in open house, etc. So I thought those were some...
So Sam's still doing 25 to 30 deals a month. She still does sit at open houses, doesn't she?
Correct.
So she's still doing the blocking and the tackling. She's still doing the basics. She's doing those 8 things: focus, commitment, keeping the push. So she's doing all those things for success.
Well, one of the 8 things... I don't have the 8 things up here, but one of the 8 things that really struck me yesterday about Sam was it's like the number 8th one, and it's talking about creating... being creative.
Ideas. Maybe I wrote down ideas, or I think the 8th one actually was serve. But, hold on, let me get my notes just so I don't make any mistakes. So passion, work, focus, persist, ideas, good push, and serve. Ideas, I wrote listen, observe, be curious, ask questions, problem solve, and make connections.
Yeah, Sam's always coming up with new ideas and new things to do. And her latest idea is she wants to do a Barry Habib event for our real estate community. And I thought, that's a really good idea. And she just feels like after COVID that we're really stale on our face-to-face contact with people. And our business is really, look at these people up here. Our business is a networking business. It's a face-to-face networking business, and that's how those relationships get deepened. So, she's always focusing on ways to deepen the relationships with the people in the community that we rely upon for our loans and our living.
Let me just say this real quickly here. There's a guy who took a business 5 years ago from nothing to over 20 million in sales, and all he does is teach marketing online. And his name is Russ Ruffini, and he said he calls this cross your fingers marketing. Facebook page and posts, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube channel, blog, SEO, backlinks, LinkedIn, referrals, references. He was saying, look, those things work, but that's the old way, and he has a new way that that I'll talk about tomorrow. How's that for a little tease? During my session, a new way actually that will enhance those things and then some. But what I've heard from this group is the way that they retain their clients has nothing to do with this cross your finger and hope that it works marketing. It's just the blocking and the tackling, the basics that allowing you guys to be highly successful and sought after by your referral partners. There's a gentleman that I know that's in the mortgage space, not with our company, with another company, who I have a great deal of respect for. And as he says, I can only serve approximately 5 realtors at a time. But those 5 realtors are top producing realtors, and they're loyal as all hell, and I'm loyal to them. Talk about that for a second, Karen. Because you don't do business with 30 realtors. Obviously, there's only so many hours in the day. There's a mic. Talk about, some key relationships and how you're able to keep those relationships, maybe a little repetitive, but how are you able to keep those relationships coming back to you over and over and over again?
They touched on it yesterday. It's all about communication. It is absolutely, all about communication. And what I found to be kind of fun, because I'm very, very competitive, and that's probably, not a good thing because my mountain is really little, and so it's weird to be so competitive in a small area. I'm from Lake Arrowhead, California, so those of you that don't know it. So my area is like this big, and my agents all know each other because there's 3 grocery stores. We all eat at the same restaurants, well, pre-COVID. And when you do a good job and you talk to your people, they share with others. So I've been very blessed where I don't just have one agent at one office. I have one agent that turns into 5 in all several offices. But what I did was, by doing a good job, I noticed the listing agents started to call me. And the listing agents are huge. For those of you that are not tapping into the listing agents, your borrower and your buyer are already yours. But what I say when they call me and go, okay, how's this borrower, what's going on, da-da-da-da-da, and I say, there's 4 in this transaction plus me, and I want you guys to know that. There's my borrower and my agent, but you, Mr. Smith, have to account to your seller. So you will never say I don't know to your seller when I'm doing this transaction with you. My girls and my staff, and what we do is anytime something goes out to our agent, same thing goes out to that listing agent. I have converted, probably in this last year with COVID, 5 new agents that were on the other side. And one of them's literally in the top 10 of RE/MAX in the nation. And he's a phenomenal guy, and he's got a group of people. And I go in and I speak and I talk to them and whatever. I just got done closing about 3 of his refis. He was a listing agent that I only dreamed to do business with when you're, in a new area and a new market. And it was like, he called me, he goes, you just get it done. Tell me about this guy, but I know you're gonna get it done. Hey, you wanna start doing some stuff? I was so honored. I told him, because it's all about humility and it's all about just sharing and being real with people. And Twitter, I don't even know how to do Twitter, but whatever. Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. That is fine. But you know what? Think about it. When was the last time somebody just really said to you, how are you? What's going on? How you doing? That resonates. People just, they like that. And I can like someone's page all day long. Who the hell cares? Who cares? So you liked the outfit. But asking them and talking to them, I don't know. It just speaks volumes. And the agents love communication. They respect it. And here's what an open escrow looks like in my world. Congratulations, and this is from the listing agents, and this is from the top agent. Escrow, blah, 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 we're opening it up, thank you. Here's the TA, here's this, here's that. Karen, do your thing. And that goes out from this top-notch listing agent to all the other agents that brought him buyers when you open it. And that's the best marketing I could ask for.
100%. 100%. That's beautiful. Give that a round of applause right there. That was a mic drop moment, if I've ever heard one. I want to ask, this is class participation. So please wake yourselves up, snap to attention. I want you guys to be thinking right now for the next few minutes. What are some questions that I could ask that benefit the entire room, just yourself? Doesn't matter. There's no bad questions. But I want to have you guys ask, and this is all about retaining. What are some things that you do or what you want to ask for clarity on of this group, what they do to retain clients? So we'll look for a volunteer to start us off with, Marcos. So Marcos, thank you for volunteering. What are some of the things that your team does to retain the clients, the real estate agents that you guys do business with? You guys are a powerhouse office. You and Mike fight back and forth for being number one. So that's why I'm picking on you. So what is, you guys, you're successful. So what is it that you implement at your branch to make sure people, it's on. You don't, the light's off, but it's on, I promise. I asked that question yesterday, that's why I know. I asked the guy, how come the light's on? He goes, it goes off, but it still works. Anyway, so what are some of the things that you do?
So, I mean, one of the biggest things, like she mentioned, communication is definitely key. So, our loan officers, as long as they're communicating throughout the process, doing a good job, they're gonna definitely get repeat business. So that's number one for our team. And secondly is just following up with your agents and doing lunch and learns. That's a big one as well. Like Sam explains, we're very big on that, very big on kind of doing, little events. So that's about it.
That's all you do? So no, well, I'm gonna tee you up there, my friend. So you do more than that.
You want me to chime in there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, hand the microphone because what you do is the person, and I want you to look over there. There's George, stand up for a second. So George is Marcos's right-hand man. Much like Paul said, you know what? I knew that I needed to hire somebody that helped me with some of my weaknesses. Doesn't mean that Paul couldn't do what KP does, but he knew that KP was a good person to fill those shoes. Marcos identified somebody that could help him make sure that his loan officers had their questions answered in a timely fashion, and that shows brilliant leadership on Marcos's part to do so. And that helps his loan officers to be able to retain their clientele. So tell me some of the things that you do within the office.
I mean, the way we run our business model is we're a little bit different in our aspect of how we approach, our volume. We really look at our loan officers as our clients from an operational and from a management perspective, and that's kind of what we instill in all of our processing and underwriting and fulfillment aspect. We look at it as, if we make our loan officers look the best and we give them the best service and the best support, the volume's going to come in. And, that kind of creates a loyalty factor with our sales staff. So we really look at it like our loan officers are our clients, and we make sure that our processing team and everybody that's involved in the back-end operations side really looks at the approach of how they treat these loan officers like they are your clients, So if they're getting the support and they're getting the service, in turn, the volume's going to come in, and they're going to look good. So we really look at it that way. That's how we retain most of the volume and most of the LOs.
You guys practice what you preach, and basically you're leading by example is the way I would share it. You guys do a phenomenal job, so great job. Thank you very much, and thanks for volunteering, Marcos. I always appreciate you jumping up there. Who else has got a question of our panel here? It's talking about retaining what you obtain. Before I volunteer somebody. Yes, sir. Hold on here. It's coming.
So my question is, when you're hiring, it's more for Mike, when you're hiring a new loan officer, when do you know it's not going to work out, and when do you let them go? Like, at what point do you make that decision? Because Chris has a problem with me. I want to get better at it.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm actually defending some people from the auto term. I think that sometimes my heart is bigger than my brain in this regard. It's usually the decisions to depart with people are made by them, to be honest with you. And I just really go out of my way to try to make it work with everybody. And I don't know if that's an asset to me or a fault to me, but it's just kind of the way I am. I try really hard to make it work with everybody, but when people don't work out, it's usually because of their attitude. If, I can train, I can help, I can support, but somebody who has a bad attitude, I don't want them around because they poison the well. And, they're talking crap to other people, and, I just don't want them in the office. So if there's one thing that really turns me off and makes me want to get them out of my office, it's a bad attitude.
I'm going to just feed you guys something, and I want to get your minds thinking. On average, Scott Thompson, how much do you spend to acquire leads? Just the leads. Okay. And 20,000, he said. Jordan Vreeland, by the way, started off spending, when he first came to work for us, he spent around $1,500 a month. I won't tell you what he spends now because it's proprietary, but he spends a lot. But he makes sure every single month. But he never spent more money than what he had in the P&L, and he crawled, walked, and then ran. Just as a quick little important footnote. $20,000. Who here spends $5,000? Who here spends $3,000? How much do any of you who raised your hands spend on a repeat client that you did business with a year or two ago, that you reached out through your CRM or picked up the phone and called them and asked them how they were doing? How much did that lead cost you? Nothing. Nothing. There is no greater ROI. The reason why I called this How to Retain What You Obtain is because 90% of our business will do this: up, then down, up, and then down, up, and then down. And you walk away from your business, take a vacation. God forbid you take 2 weeks off, but let's say you took 2 weeks off. Would your business continue to flourish? Yes or no? It should, if you're treating it like a business. I reference my father all the time, and hope that doesn't bother anybody, but my dad said, you need to act as if. Act as if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, earning 7 figures. And the board of directors is going to fire us if the business slides back because you happen to go off to Aruba for a couple of weeks. That's not a business. We play at this business because it's relatively speaking for some of you, easy to make a living. It's much harder to treat it like an actual business that is sustainable. The reason why I talk about a CRM being so important is because it allows you to have a business that has blue sky. What's blue sky? Somebody tell me what blue sky is. And when you're selling a business, what is a blue sky considered? Anybody? Blue, what? Exactly, future business. Blue sky is future business. Future business you can count on. Is the past a fairly fair indicator of the future in business? If you can track your business with all the KPIs, with all the metrics, will that give you a pretty good indication of what the future holds? Say yes. Why do you guys use MMI, PRMG IQ, when you're recruiting? I make sure you guys pay that $80 a month because I want you not only to use MRE, Mobility RE, but to look at the data, the people you're hiring, and don't hire the dipshits that don't know how to close a loan. Your time's too valuable. If you want to be a trainer, where do you go? You offshoot it to Zenix. That's why we established Zenix. So, because you're not that good at training people. Doesn't mean you're not a great loan officer, doesn't mean you're a great manager, but that's not the highest and best use of your time. But if you will look at your business and say, I need to be able to retain every client that I work with. If I'm spending $20,000 a month on acquiring clients, and I can put them into a system that reminds me and my team that I hire, thank you, Justice Roberts, to follow up with those people on a consistent, planned out basis that uses influence from Dr. Cialdini so that your impact will matter, well, then guess what happens? Now I can go out to you and I can say, hey, company, somebody recruiting me, somebody I want to sell my business to, I can say, how would you like to buy my business? Well, what do you mean? Well, let me show you something. Over the last 5, 7, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is, I've been acquiring leads. I've retained those leads in my system. I can tell you everything about those people. I can show you on a consistent basis what I send out, when I send it, because we know that on a Tuesday, that has the highest open rate for emails. Wednesday's the second best day, and it falls from there. So I send things out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I track my open rate. I track the conversion, and I have a legitimate business. I can leave and go on my future honeymoon, Pam, and I can still know that my team is going to flourish because I have a business that's sustainable. If I can show somebody that I generate $2 million in gross revenue, here's my expenses, and here's what I net, and I'm netting, say, $500,000, what's the multiple? At least 2 or 3 times, right? So I'm going to go to some loan officer and I'm going to say, you can take over my business. I'll take a year, just like I would if I sell in a restaurant. I'll take 6 months to a year to make sure that the customers know that you are me and I am you, and I will help transition, and you're going to pay me for my business $1.5 million. And I'll receive an override. You're going to give me some cash up front or not, but I'm going to receive an override until that bill is paid. That's a business that has blue sky because you can predict the future based on the past, metrics and KPIs. Retain what you obtain. If you don't do that, you are utterly wasting time. And as KP said yesterday, and you've heard it from every coach you've ever engaged, time is the one commodity you can never get back. Any time that you are spending sourcing new clients and not making sure that you're retaining the ones that you've obtained, you're basically firing yourself in the future. You're devaluing yourself. And I know that you're far too good for that. How about a round of applause for our panel members? Thank you. Great job. You're awesome. Paul, thank you, my friend. And Mike, the man, the myth. All right, the legend. Okay, thank you, guys.